Hello everyone, welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting for the 28th of October. This council meeting is being live streamed via YouTube and recorded and published online via Facebook. To those present in the meeting today, by participating in this public meeting, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. The Mayor and or the General Manager have the authority to pause the live stream if comments or debate are considered defamatory or otherwise inappropriate for publishing. Participants are advised that they may be subject to legal action if they engage in unlawful behaviour or comment. Do I have apologies? No apologies? Do I have a mover for the apologies? Councillor Adams, seconder. Sorry, if there's no apologies, well, you don't need to move. Oh, here comes Councillor. We have a full house. So thank you. We don't need to move the apologies. We don't have any. Councillor Adams, would you say the prayer, please?
Almighty God, we ask you to invoke your blessing upon this council. Direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement and true welfare of the people of the council area, our state and Australia. Amen.
Thank you. And Councillor Gallagher, could you please do the acknowledgement of country?
Yes, I acknowledge the traditional owners upon the land upon which we meet and pay our respect to those elders, both past, present and emerging.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. We now move to the item 5, the minutes for confirmation. Do I have a mover for the minutes? Councillor Gallagher. And, sorry, who was second there? Councillor Cool. Thank you, Councillor. Is there any debate? Can we clear all the... Clear all the hands? Any debate? No debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Oops, that's me. Bang away. Against?
I've got a problem here.
Didn't.
Thank
you. That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We now move to disclosure of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest for this meeting? No disclosures of interest. Thank you, councillor. Councillors, we now move to item 7, mayoral minute, for which there is none. We'll now move to notice of motion of which notice has been given, number 17/20, dated October 16, Telus Holdings proposed Blue Bush project. Councillor Kennedy, are you moving that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'll move that.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Allgate, thank you. Councillor Kennedy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would, thank you. I'd like councillors to consider the following arguments. Without a doubt, toxic waste dumps have a negative impact or negative perception and are not wanted by the vast majority in the vast majority of areas. Many in Sydney, Melbourne, other capital cities see it as a negative. We in Broken Hill have tried to promote, and this has come from many other councillors, promote us as a green, clean city. We've had councillors move and pass that we want to be 100% carbon neutral, and at the same time we are now looking at a toxic waste dump. I do note the General Manager's comments, which I find completely disappointing, to call it sensationalism, refer to it as a toxic waste dump. Hazardous waste includes toxic waste, but is not limited to toxic waste. Hazardous waste also includes corrosive waste and any material that may cause harm to humans in the environment, including carcinogenics, such as fire foams, arsenic, cadmium, lead, mercury, all materials that were mentioned during the briefing by the Telus Holdings representative. A dump is just anywhere that there is waste stored. A repository is just a geographic or geological dump. It means it's protected by a clay soil. You wouldn't think councillors would have to go into that much detail, but to have this put into the business paper, in my opinion, is completely disappointing. And I ask at some stage that the Mayor actually rule that as out of order, believing it's unsafe. So in Melbourne and Perth, all the capital cities, we know that there's a negative perception amongst those cities and what they think of toxic waste. We, as in Broken Hill, have spent many, many millions of dollars on tourism to try and bring people out here. We spend money on making sure we're promoted as a clean, green city. The federal and state government are looking for areas to dispose of toxic waste and must compensate any area that is forced to deal with toxic waste. The federal government has approved these areas in Western Australia and also Chandler, about 120 kilometres from Alice Springs. The Chandler or the Alice Springs community are strongly opposed to the Chandler facility, which is 120 kilometres from Alice Springs, but has been given the okay from the federal government. They believe that there has not been good community consultation, and there is actually moves from the Alice Springs community to make sure there's public meetings and other organisations to ensure that they oppose the proposed Chandler project. TELUS Holdings will make significant profit from their operations, and the Broken Hill community should be part of that profit. The federal and state governments will be investing what's expected to be $100 to $150 million in the construction stage of this waste dump. Why anyone would think that the Broken Hill community should not be part of that investment or get a return on that investment would be letting the community down. TELUS Holdings made it quite clear they were prepared to give $3 million in the first year and have it matched by the federal and state governments for lead remediation. Broken Hill already receives money from lead remediation from the state government. So I don't know if that is on top of or including, but council must push at this stage to first garnish what the opinion of the community is in relation to the proposed toxic waste dump. We need to do this beforehand because we can't rely on TELUS Holdings for that consultation, given the remarks that have been made in Alice Springs to do with the Chandler project. We as a community could quite easily at least get the returns from royalties from the mine that is proposed out in that area, the clay mine. That would be a significant contribution to the Broken Hill community and offset in some part any negative impact that it will have. The federal government is also looking at plans to have these projects and put them on different communities. This is our opportunity to get at least some money, and there's nothing wrong with asking the state and federal government to put in return. TELUS Holdings needs to build into their plan a component that compensates the Broken Hill community for what would be considered a negative impact and over a long period of time. We're talking about a period of 20 to 25 years that they're talking about operation for 50 to 60 employees, but everyone needs to remember that these geological repositories are there forever. They are talking millions of years. We're not going to live for millions of years, but it's there for millions of years. So this isn't a 20-year project for Broken Hill. It is a lifelong project. It is a 20-year project for TELUS, which employs people for 20 years, but we in Broken Hill live well beyond, and it will be there well beyond that 20-year period. So I ask councillors to support the motion and support at least asking the two tiers of government and TELUS Holdings to contribute to compensating the Broken Hill community so that we may do up footpaths, roads and ovals to benefit the entire community, not just a few that are employed there. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Any speakers against? Councillor Clark?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Certainly, I can understand that there may well be people in the community who are concerned about this hazardous waste dump. people tend to have a fear of the unknown and of anything new which comes into the community. I think we're within living memory of all of us that there were people who were absolutely terrified of microwave ovens, for example, and they believed all sorts of terrible things about microwave ovens. And we now are living with these microwave ovens quite happily. We're also living with all sorts of hazardous waste in our homes. Madam Mayor, certainly none of us would want to give up our computers or our mobile phones. We have batteries in just about everything that we operate. These, when they live their useful life, when they've finished their useful life, they have to go somewhere. All around the world, Madam Mayor, not just in Australia, but all around the world, these repositories for hazardous waste have been developed over decades. People are aware they're there, but they're not living in terror of them. It's only when something new comes along that people do question. I would ask Councillor Kennedy, did he advise people who were concerned about the TELUS repository to actually seek some information from their website? It's quite a good website at TELUS Holdings Australia. Also, at the conclusion of the investigation by both the federal and state governments on the suitability, the appropriateness, the safety of this particular repository, that there would be an engagement process by TELUS with the community to allay any fears, to give further information. If in fact after 3 years, where people have an opportunity to research and find out for themselves if there are indeed any other people who are still living in, well, we wouldn't say ignorance, but living without knowledge of just what TELUS is involved in. As to negative effects on population and tourism, Madam Mayor, you know, I'm really concerned with the negative references to Broken Hill on social media. There are references to Broken Hill as being a toxic waste dump. Fancy anybody doing that? Anybody who was concerned at all with the image of Broken Hill, referring to Broken Hill in that way. And certainly if there are continual references on social media to Broken Hill in this way, it doesn't matter how hard our tourism operators work. Those sorts of derogatory comments are going to have a negative impact, whether TELUS is with us or not. And I'm not really sure at this juncture how you would be expecting the New South Wales government to be giving us $5 million each year when the negative impacts that it is supposed to offset are not even clearly spelled out. Councillor Kennedy has referred to a negative perception. I'd say this negative perception is coming from unfounded comments on social media when people could easily find out information for themselves. And the same thing with expecting TELUS to contribute $3 million when the only negative effect there is this negative perception. No other negative effects are spelled out because we don't know what they will be.
30 seconds, Councillor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any further speakers for the motion? Councillor Holgate.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I often wonder, one would think that councillors would be talking to the community. After all, we're supposed to be representing the community as a whole. We're not supposed to be just talk to select groups that agree with what we say. we're supposed to be the vehicle by which the public convey information to the council so that the council can make decisions based on community expectations or community likes and dislikes. I'm yet to find one person who is supportive of this. Lots of them have actually looked at the Telus Holdings site and have done exactly what Councillor Clark has said. But there's no getting away from it. If there was no image problem with toxic waste dumps, it'd be near Sydney, where most of the toxic waste is generated. Why isn't it near Sydney? Because there is a perception that not only is it dangerous, it is terribly negative. It has a terribly negative effect on the area, and to suggest that it doesn't have a negative effect, as far as I'm concerned, is just pie in the sky. People are not sort of doing their homework properly. It's okay to read Telus Holdings PR spiel. They're not going to say anything contrary to what they want the public to hear. It's a PR exercise on their behalf in exactly the same way it was a PR exercise when they addressed council. I'm fearful that the majority of the council will disregard this notice of motion. I'm fearful that the general manager's comments will be accepted for what they are. Quite, as far as I'm concerned, the general manager's response shows little respect to Councillor Kennedy, and given that, he should be pulled into gear as far as I'm concerned. But I'd be surprised if that happens, because whatever the general manager says goes. I'm also fearful of the fact that the majority of the Labor Party will sit on their hands the same as they did when the pipeline was mooted. And that's precisely what it appears to be at this stage, because obviously the Labor Party is supportive of this. Based on Councillor Clark's presentation just a while ago, it appears that there's nothing to worry about. It's quite okay. It won't have a negative effect on the community. So those people that think that will have a negative effect on the community, in the same way as those people who thought it was going to have a negative effect on Alice Springs and Kalgoorlie, they're all got their heads in the sand, so to speak, because we haven't done the homework. A lot of people have done the homework. Councillor Clark is not the only one who has read Telus Holdings' proposal. There is a great deal of interest in the community for this, particularly with young families who have young children. And I don't move in those circles normally, but I can tell you there are quite a few young married couples that have approached me about it, and I have given them an undertaking to speak on their behalf by putting forward the views that they have terrible concerns about the prospects of having this dump 45 kilometres from Broken Hill on a major water course, and it's just, as far as they're concerned, it's not on. As far as they're concerned, they think the council should act on behalf of the community, not just a handful of councillors who think it's okay. Act on behalf of the community, and that's what we're supposed to be here for. But we're never bloody doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Brown?
Yes, Madam Mayor. A couple of things. I would like to take issue at the continuing use of the term toxic waste, because it is quite distinct from hazardous waste. And I refer councillors to the presentation by Telus Holdings, and whether you interpret that this as being spin on behalf of that company. There is a accepted definition of toxic waste as opposed to hazardous waste, and it was clear from that presentation that they intend to have nothing to do with toxic waste, certainly not, you know, radioactive waste or other toxic waste. So to call it a toxic waste dump is completely misleading in my view. Hazardous waste has a specific connotation. Hazardous waste, as was made clear at that presentation, is the sort of is intended to deal with the kinds of substances that we are surrounded with every day of our lives. Things like, you know, washing up detergent or nail polish or acetone. They use that particular example. All of these things are perfectly safe if used in small quantities, but are not if in large quantities. And this repository is intended to keep those safe. Councillor Allgate made an assumption that the reason for proposing to locate this repository near here is that it's out of the main cities, but it was certainly my understanding from that presentation that the reason was because of the geology of the local area, and nothing to do with keeping wastes away from the city. And I'm pretty clear on that point, and it's very clear from the presentation and from the website, and applied also to the Western Australian repository. This is very stable, clay lined underground bunker that is intended to be used. I also take issue with the assumption that none of the councillors, apart from councillors Kennedy and Allgate, speak to anyone in the community. That's absolutely not the case. I know that the rest of us speak to people constantly, and I've got to say my experience has been that either the project hasn't been mentioned at all, or people are cautiously interested and cautiously supportive. I use the word supportive because it's very clear we've got 3 years of investigation by the government, by the EPA and other agencies, and a whole process of community consultation to go through yet. So that's a long time. So this, I think, proposal for asking the company to agree to some sort of compensation or financial assistance to council, I think is well premature. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I have Councillor Clark. Do you have a question?
All good.
Yeah, I'm seeing him too. Yep.
An amendment, Madam Mayor.
What's your amendment, Councillor?
Madam Mayor, I think perhaps you could, as Mayor, write to the Coolgardie Council and ask them about any effects that the Tellus holding repository in their area has had on their community regarding jobs and perhaps any kind of fears people may have had which have been since allayed.
So, Councillor, so that the Broken Hill City Council write to Coolgardie Council. Can we add Alice Springs as well?
Yes, happy about that.
Councillor Kennedy spoke about the opposition in Alice Springs.
Yes, okay, he did mention that.
Yeah, so that the Broken Hill City Council write to Coolgardie and Alice Springs Council and asked if any negative effects on communities regarding jobs.
Well, and positive, Madam Mayor, any effects. Yeah, any effects. So I'm certainly thinking that there would have been jobs generated in that area, as indeed there would be jobs connected with any of those secure repositories. So I'm looking to see just what the effects generally have been on the community, positive and negative.
Is there a seconder for that? A seconder for that? Thank you, councillor McCall. Okay, we'll debate this motion now. Councillor, you've moved an amendment. Do you want to
Yes.
speak to that amendment, councillor Clark?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. I would. Certainly, you know, the Coolgardie region, the Alice Springs region, I suppose, you know, there could be a view that those areas were chosen too because they're a long way from capital cities, etc. They're chosen specifically because of the geology and the mineralogy of the area that they are in, access to water, etc. There are really good reasons. It's why the exploration time for TELUS took so long, because they had explored many areas before they came into the area 45 kilometres away from Broken Hill. It's why it's probably not on the outskirts of Broken Hill, because the geology is more suitable in the area that they have chosen. I think that if we write to those councils, those particular councils, we may have a better idea of the process that those councils have been through following the approach by TELUS, and just get a little idea of any benefits that may have accrued to them, because of course we are all hoping that we will have projects here in Broken Hill, whether they're TELUS or anybody else, which will create jobs for the people of Broken Hill and to encourage people to move to Broken Hill. Councillor Kennedy thinks people are going to run away if they hear about a hazardous waste repository 45 kilometres away from Broken Hill, but they may be more interested in coming here to engage in the process of construction or indeed the process of running it. I think there also too, the reference to that Councillor Allgate made about young families being terrified for their children, they may be the ones who are going to be welcoming the jobs that will be coming our way. I'd just like to add that I'm a little disappointed that Councillor Allgate has taken the opportunity to politicise this. It's not Labor councillors who are all in favour. I don't know if all Labor councillors are. I don't know if all Labor voters are. I don't know if all National Party voters may be utterly delighted to hear that there are going to be jobs coming our way. So, Madam Mayor, I will move that motion. That we do apply to the Coolgardie and Alice Spring councils to discover what benefits or otherwise accrued for their particular places.
Okay, thank you, councillor. So it's writing to Coolgardie and Alice Springs councils. Councillor Allgate, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I just wanted to comment. Councillor Clark says that there is no danger. I asked one question of TELUS Holdings when they put the presentation to the council, and that question was, can TELUS Holdings give the council a guarantee and the community a guarantee that there will never be low-level nuclear waste stored at that site? Their response was no, they could not give a guarantee, because with changes in ownership and changes in governments, there's no way that they could give that guarantee. So to say people are basing their fears on or irresponsibly is wrong. There really is that there's been a push by various governments over the years and various authorities to establish like low-level nuclear waste incinerators, to have low-level nuclear waste passing through the town to some other site. The whole country is trying to find repositories for low-level nuclear waste, and there's nothing to say in the future, might not be in our time, but there's nothing to say that in the future there won't be a move to have nuclear waste also stored out there. And to suggest, and Councillor Clark's suggestion that Broken Hill, Alice Springs and Kalgoorlie are the only places in Australia that have the appropriate clay-based countryside or mineralisation, I think is fairly outlandish, because that's drawing a long bow. I sympathise with the younger people in the town, and there's lots of older people as well are concerned, but I sympathise with the young people who are raising families. I'd be concerned if I had toddlers as well, and it really annoys me. We turn our backs on the community whenever we get a chance, and to say that the Labor Party are not against this or for it or what, we'll see how the vote goes at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Page, are you speaking for the amendment? You need to unmute yourself, Councillor Page.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Very clear.
Are you speaking for the amendment, Councillor?
Yes, and it's very clear if this amendment gets up, which I'm sure it will, we need to do a survey when the correspondence comes back to Broken Hill. We need to survey the people of Broken Hill. They're the ones that it's their town, their location, and we need to listen to the people. So when the correspondence comes back, Madam Mayor, I'd like to think that the Broken Hill City Council would survey the locals. It's affecting us locals. What they do up there is their business. What we do here is our business. So I'd like to see added to, give a commitment to the people of Broken Hill. You will survey and listen to the people of Broken Hill, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kennedy, are you speaking against the amendment?
I am, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
It's good to see that Councillor Clark is the Labor caucus nominated speaker tonight. I would have to say that the Mayor's probably lost the caucus vote, considering she did have concerns about this matter. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. I'll start off by saying the difference between me and Councillor Clark and Councillor Brown at the moment, and Councillor Page, is number two of my notice of motion is the question.
So I think there's a point of order from Councillor McCall.
Okay, no worries.
Councillor Cool.
Madam Mayor, my point of order was that we're speaking about amendment. We're not talking about political alliances or otherwise. And it's this constant interjection into this supposed debate of politicised points. Let's discuss the amendment and the issue. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kennedy, continue.
Do I get 2 minutes from now? It seems like I've been interjected for what wasn't a point of order. It was something that the councillor disagreed with, as opposed to a point of order. It's fine for Councillor Cool to sit there and shaking his head and trying to put me off with his anger issues, but the reality is I have a right to debate an issue without the councillor pulling faces and shaking his head and putting his biro. What next?
Councillor, stop the clock, so I'll restart when you're ready to start the argument.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Most appreciated. A little bit of the less anger from the other Councillor Cool would probably go a long way to making this council meeting a lot more nice place to be.
Sorry, Councillor,
as I was saying,
point of order, Councillor Cool. What's your point of order, councillor Cool?
Point of order again, Madam Mayor. You've got a councillor who's attacking another councillor. Let's get back to the debate on the matter at hand. Thank you.
That is,
Thanks, councillor.
again, that's not a point of order, Madam Mayor. For him, he's disagreeing with what I'm saying. It's not an attack. For me, if it was an attack, I'd be abusing the mayor, the councillor. I'm watching the councillor on the screen who's
Sorry, councillor Kennedy.
It's very
Councillor
off-putting.
Kennedy, you actually said anger issues of a councillor. You made personal reference to him.
Pictures there.
So I've stopped the clock, by the way. Sorry, I have another point of order. Councillor Brown? Yeah. Councillor Brown?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I think I may have been. I was about to say that I thought we'd had a speech in favour and 2 negative speeches, but I think Councillor Pages did speak in favour of the amendment. So I withdraw that point of order.
Regardless of that, I'm the mover of the motion and I can speak to every amendment. So every amendment that's put, I get the opportunity to speak to. If you're going to interrupt and come in, at least be a little bit factual, Councillor Brown.
Councillor, can I just say, we've got another point of order. Sorry, councillor. Councillor Clark, what is your point of order?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I think that Councillor Kennedy is being argumentative and we are waiting to hear what he is going to say, what his debating point is against the amendment, please.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy, we'll go back to you.
There's been 4 points of order, Madam Mayor. It's not me that's delaying the speaking on this motion. I've attempted 4 times. I've been interrupted by Councillor LeCoul twice, Councillor Clark once, and Councillor Brown once. This is just another attempt by a number of councillors to stop me from putting my point forward. Surely, as a councillor, I have the opportunity to argue without the. And Councillor LeCoul or Councillor Clark was talking about arguments. That's what we're here for at the council meeting, to debate and put our arguments forward. Surely, as a councillor, I have the opportunity to do that. So I'll ask the Mayor again, can I start with my 2 minutes and put my point forward, please?
Yes, councillor, you've only spoken for 1 minute and 29 seconds. I stopped the clock at each time. So I'll start the clock again.
Well, I actually hadn't said a word. My very first word was, I am not saying the same as Councillor Clark. I believe the community should have the opportunity for input. Councillor Page thinks that the amendment's going to get up and then talks about a survey. Number 2, that the Broken Hill City Council reports to the November ordinary meeting of council on ways that the council can engage with the community to understand the support or lack of support for the proposal of the toxic waste dump in Broken Hill. This is about getting the views of the Broken Hill community. I'm not saying I'm right and I'm not saying other councillors are wrong. What I'm saying is that we as a community, as a council, should be speaking the community. I found it very offensive when Councillor Clark referred to the community as ignorant, or that Councillor Clark referred to the community as not understanding or fearful of the unknown or terrified. We were once terrified of microwave ovens. A little bit dismissive for the community as a whole, considering microwave ovens were around the whole of Australia. This is something that's going on in Broken Hill that is nowhere else. To say that it is, and Councillor Brown is completely wrong.
I have a point of order. Councillor Clark, what is your point of order, and be direct?
Yes, item 10, Madam Mayor, of the meeting procedure. I am being deliberately misrepresented by Councillor Kennedy. When we were talking about people originally being terrified of microwave ovens, I did not mention the Broken Hill community. I was talking generally. You have taken that to mean that I was talking about our local community. I'm very displeased with the way that I'm being misrepresented, Madam Mayor. Councillor Kennedy is deliberately misleading this argument. Can he please stick to the point, get on and give his point about why he is disagreeing with this amendment? Thank you.
Councillor Kennedy, could you debate the issue, not the councillors? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, these issues were brought up in speaking to first the motion and the amendment. Now, I moved an motion. This is an amendment to my motion. I can talk about what my motion is as opposed to what the amendment is. This is my right, my 2 minutes. The councillor said that people fear the unknown. At one stage, people feared microwave ovens. It is at what the councillor was saying, and Councillor Clark was saying, it's an irrational fear. It's an irrational fear to fear a toxic waste dump. Councillor Brown said that there is going to be no toxic waste. They have said they are going to store asbestos, cadmium, mercury, acetone. Acetone, for example, is not a innocuous material. It is a material that soaks through clay and can get into the environment. It is highly flammable and is used in the mining industry for a whole range of testing things. To think that acetone is completely safe is completely wrong. Put a lighter to it and see what happens to it. It is a hazardous material. It is toxic if drank. These are toxic materials. Councillor Brown has misled the community, and Councillor Clark has ignored the community and has more or less called them, having said they have an irrational fear, compared the hazardous waste repository to microwave oven fear. Referred to the community as ignorant, and then withdrew that and made another remark, perhaps not ignorant, but initially.
30 seconds, Councillor.
Hey?
30 seconds.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. So we as a community should be going out to we as a council should be going out to the community and getting the views of the community. We've had Councillor Clark say that young people might like it. Well, young people might like it, but surely we have to ask the community to find out who is for it and who is against it. It's fine for councillors to sit around here and argue about who's for it, who's against it, and who's to, but we need to ask the community.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there any more speakers for the amendment? Councillor Gallagher?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll move the motion be put.
Okay, is there a seconder? Councillor Clark?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
the motion can't be put, it's an amendment.
Thank you, very good point. We're still in amendment stage, Councillor. So we've up to speakers for the amendment. If there are no speakers for, then we will put the motion, the amendment. So any speakers for? No, I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? And against?
Too late. Yeah. I was going to add something, but it's too late. I don't think it will work.
Thank you. Against the amendment is Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Allgate. For the amendment, Councillor Page, Councillor Clark, Councillor Brown, Councillor Nolan, Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Adams, Councillor McCool, and Mayor Shirley will clear the vote. The amendment now becomes the motion.
Right, a reply, Madam Mayor.
If there's no further debate, right a reply, Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hazardous waste is created all over the country. We have 17,000 people. There's 25 million people in Australia. Why should Broken Hill be the area that's forced to take this toxic waste? When Councillor Clark was making her arguments earlier on, she was talking about comments on Facebook about the negativity of the waste dump and the effect that may have on tourism. I assume that Councillor Clark was talking about my comments on Facebook arguing against the toxic waste. Well, I'm one person. Councillor Clark proved my argument. If one person who has a number of people read it can affect our tourism in Broken Hill, imagine what tens of thousands, if not millions of people around the country will do to our reputation if they refer to Broken Hill as a toxic waste dump. Councillor Clark and other councillors should take this into account when voting on these things, that there is a negative perception and it won't only be me that's taking it. The councillor was quick to acknowledge the impact that a few comments could have on the Broken Hill community. Chandler in Alice Springs is 120 kilometres away, 120 kilometres, and they're still concerned. Kalgoorlie is 200, the Sandy Ridge mine is 240 kilometres away from Kalgoorlie. Ours is 40 kilometres away on a major highway leading into Broken Hill from Mildura. These are important issues, and for any councillor to dismiss this or even think that it's not appropriate to ask the state or federal government for compensation or the company is not representing the community to the best of their ability. It's fine to consider anyone that speaks against it as fear-mongering, and it may be fine for Councillor Clark to go out and be the spokesman for TELUS Holdings, but we're here elected to represent the Broken Hill community. Councillor Clark is not an expert on toxic waste or hazardous waste repositories. She would, I would say, not know near as much as me, considering the councillor has mentioned mobile phones and TVs, and obviously didn't take into account the other things that were mentioned at that briefing, which was arsenic, cadmium, mercury, fire foam, which causes cancer, which has caused cancer they're now worried at airports and fire stations all over the country, but we'll be taking this into Broken Hill. So to say that it's only batteries and phones and televisions is a sales point from TELUS Holding. And I don't know if the councillor speaks or stays in direct contact with TELUS Holding to get this information, but it's sure to me, and I'm sure it'll sound to other people in the community, that the councillor is speaking on behalf of TELUS Holdings as opposed to the community. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Before I put the motion, just check with Councillor Adams.
I was
Did you
trying,
have a question?
I did have a problem with my machine here, so is it too late for me to consider an addendum to?
The writer replies being
It's
given.
done, yeah, okay.
So, okay, I'll put the vote. All those in favour? So against, Councillor Kennedy, and supporting in favour, Councillor Page, Councillor Clark, Councillor Brown, Councillor Nolan, Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Adams, Councillor Cool, against Councillor Allgate, and in favour, Councillor Mayor Shirley. Councillors, I will write as a matter of urgency to Kalgoorlie and Alice Springs, and I'll also take that further and request a meeting with them. So thank you for that good debate. We'll move to item 2, notice for which motion, got papers everywhere. Motion of which notice has been given, number 18/20, installation of loading zones. Councillor Kennedy, would you like to move that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would.
Seconder? Second, Councillor Allgate. Councillor Kennedy, are you speaking to your motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will. Firstly, I'd like to start off by saying I'm glad there will be an election in September next year. It'll be a good opportunity for the community to vote on the very things that we do tonight and for the rest of the year. It's a shame that there wasn't an election in September this year, but at least the people will get an opportunity, and it's good to know.
Oh, sorry, there's a point of order. Councillor Brown? Councillor Brown, is that a point of order? You need to unmute.
No, Madam Mayor, I was just indicating that I wish to speak against the motion when that time comes.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
Maureen.
Councillor Clark, have you got a point?
Yes,
of order?
Madam Mayor, I'm going to make a point of order because again, Councillor Kennedy is not getting to the issue that we are supposed to be debating. He is taking the opportunity again to make political speeches. This is not a venue for making political speeches. This is a venue for us to discuss council business. Can we please get on with discussing council business? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kennedy, can you speak to your motion, please?
So am I out of order, Madam Mayor? Can you rule on that motion? I don't know what the point of order was. I get 2 minutes. I didn't say anything illegal or out of context or whatever. I was speaking about the community's right to participate in the process. So was I out of order or not?
Councillor, what I'm asking you to do is the reason why we debate is you're debating the motion that you have submitted. So please debate the motion that you have submitted.
So, but do I get my 2 minutes to speak as?
Yes, Councillor, I keep pressing the stop button. You keep, so please go ahead and speak to your motion that you have submitted.
So very disappointing that I'm interrupted continuously by what it seems is from Councillor Clark. Every time I go to speak, there's
Councillor
something.
Kennedy, it is a right and a process for a councillor to call points of order, to move amendments, to take in the process of the meeting. Sorry, Councillor Kennedy. So please,
It's right of account.
Please speak to your motion and not waste your time attacking other councillors. Councillor Kennedy, you're not going to speak to your motion? Okay, Councillor Kennedy is not.
You've muted me again in the middle of my thing because Councillor Clark has interrupted me again. It's not the process for a councillor to use points of order to disrupt other councillors. It is out of the order to use points of order to disrupt a councillor. That's why I ask, are you ruling on the councillor's point of order? The councillor continues to interrupt. I would like a ruling whether I was out of order so I know.
Councillor Kennedy, I ruled that you need to speak to your motion.
So I wasn't out of order. Thank you. I'll continue. Back to what I was saying. I'm glad that the community gets the opportunity to be part of...
Councillor Kennedy, can we please, again, speak to your motion? It is not the time to look for votes during the meeting. It is the time to show leadership.
You didn't even wait, Councillor Mayor Turley.
Mayor Turley.
I have to say that again, I will start. It's good that the community can be part of this. The councillors, the community can be part of this, and in a democratic fashion, people contacted me and the mayor about the loading zones. So can I continue? Or am I going to get interrupted again?
No, speak to your motion, as I've said.
Well, I have been interrupted by you, everyone else. So it's a good democratic process that shows that things can work. I'm sure it was the same people that contacted the general manager and the mayor about the loading zones and the concerns they had as far as getting fines and other sort of warnings when trying to park and offset goods. This shows that the democratic process can work. You contact your councillors. It is on the agenda, and I'm gladly see that the general manager has been driving around the town and has already taken on board most of these things. The motion virtually that has the notice of motion that has been moved has virtually been already taken up by the general manager. I do note that Councillor Brown has already said that she'll be speaking against this motion, which is very strange. Speaking against the motion would be virtually speaking against the general manager's comments that he is already doing this. So it'll be interesting to see what Councillor Brown and how she speaks against this motion, considering that the General Manager has more or less said that it's already being implemented. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Is there any speakers against the motion? Councillor Brown.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I'll move an amendment that this matter be referred to the Traffic Committee, which is the appropriate place for this to be dealt with. The Traffic Committee, along with Council itself and individual councillors, Councillor Kennedy and the Mayor, has already been approached about 2 of those loading zones. I'm not sure whether other councillors are aware that the Traffic Committee requires participation from the other agencies, particularly RMS, who always, have a large say in proposed changes to traffic management. It's one of those really complex areas where one change, which might seem quite logical and will solve a problem for one set of users, just creates more problems for other sets of users. So it's something that can't be done in haste. One of the a way to deal with one of the.
Sorry, I haven't got a seconder. For
sorry,
amendment.
Madam. Yep.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Adams seconded it. I'm just checking to see if Councillor Kennedy's got a point of order. Councillor Kennedy?
I'd be happy to remove my notice of motion and go with the allow the amendment to be the motion, and thank Councillor Brown for her input.
Thanks, Councillor Kennedy.
The amendment, okay. Councillor Brown, you're actually still debating?
No, I don't think so, in view of the fact that Councillor Kennedy has withdrawn this. I won't withdraw the amendment, because I think, we have to come to grips with this issue, and I think, a comprehensive report maybe from the Traffic Committee will at least throw some light, and we can at least see what the problems are and what the issues are. It is pretty complicated. Certainly, everyone on the Traffic Committee is anxious to find good solutions to these. I mean, and there are a number of areas where potentially there are problems. Particularly down the lanes where there's always an issue with shared use, and they're very narrow. And again, solving one problem just creates another. So I think this will be a pretty major project for the Traffic Committee. I think it'll be a really good thing to forward this to that committee so we can start to work on it.
Thank you, Councillor. If there's no debate, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Just waiting on, thank you, that's unanimous vote. Thank you, councillors. We now move to the rescission motion, item 9, for which there is none. Item 10 is reports from delegate, for which there is nil. And then item 11, Broken Hill City Council report number 135/20, correspondence report, New South Wales Government, Small Business Supports Grants. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Adams? Seconder? Councillor Clark. Councillor Adams, would you like to speak to this?
Just, Madam Mayor, that perhaps in some.
I'm just checking if Councillor Kennedy's got a point of order. And remember, we did do an agreement about different hand wipes. Councillor Kennedy, did you have a point of order? No. Okay.
No, Madam Mayor, just to speak after the if I've got a point of order, Madam Mayor, I'll unmute and call a point of order. Otherwise, my hand's just up for the next speaker.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Adams?
Perhaps, I don't know how we could do this, but perhaps having read the report from them, the reply from them, that perhaps we could actually try and make the state government and the Premier realise that we are basically on a border. They keep talking about the cities and the towns on the borders, and it sounds like they don't think we're there, but we are. We have the same problems as most places on borders within New South Wales or Australia even. So I think maybe we should be pushing that a little bit more to them about where we are.
Could you consider item 3 that we write and ask to be considered a border town?
Yes.
A very simple one like that?
Yep.
Okay, Councillor Clark is the seconder. Are you happy with that to be included?
I certainly am. I don't know why we weren't considered a border town. There's nothing between us and
Okay. Thank you for that.
civilization.
Speakers against, Councillor Kennedy, are you speaking against?
Moving an amendment. Thanks, Madam.
What's your amendment, Councillor?
So 1, 2, 3 has been spoken with the addendum that the Mayor put. And number 4, that council develop a policy that engages and helps small businesses that are struggling through these difficult times.
Councillor Adams, are you happy to include that in your motion?
Not too sure on that one, Madam Mayor. I think we already have the small business through the New South Wales small business set up here to assist small businesses. But I guess if there's some way that we can help, I just don't know about a policy being developed for the council to help small business. So no, not at this stage.
Okay, it's an amendment then, Councillor. Do you have a seconder? Seconder for your motion, Councillor Allgate. Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Do you want to speak to your amendment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move this amendment. It's fine for the Broken Hill community to rely on other forms of government to get us through these difficult times with the impacts that the coronavirus has had in the closure of the Victorian, Queensland and South Australian borders. But the reality is we as a council need to have a policy that deals with these difficult times. There's been a number of things that have come up over the recent months that have impacted businesses, and that includes the raid issue out at Cananda Road, closing times at the dump, closing times with our tourism sector. These all impact small businesses. So it has been a hard time for businesses over this period, and I think that the council should take the opportunity to formulate a policy that has mechanisms in there that allows the council to help those businesses, even if it is only advice. Advice is a very important thing for businesses. It's fine that there's a regional development, Australia and all these sort of things, but the reality is a lot of people, and there's a lot of expertise in council that could be used to benefit the local community. And that could be as easily done as writing a policy that allows business owners to contact council where they may be just having problems with regulations that are to do with the state, the federal or local government, issues of crossing the border. These are small things that can have a significant impact on small businesses. And I think the council, rather than follow all the time and worry about what the Premier is doing and what she can offer the town, we as a council need to offer the community what we can. It may not be much, but we need to lead by example. And I think this would be a perfect opportunity. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Speakers against the amendment? No speakers against. I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? Councillor in favour, Councillor Page, Councillor Nolan, Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Adams, Councillor Cool, Councillor Allgate, Councillor Kennedy, and Mayor Shirley. Against, Councillor Brown and Councillor Clark. The amendment now becomes the motion. All those in favour? Or is it, sorry, right, a reply, Councillor? Oh, sorry, it's this is an amendment. It's Councillor Adams, right, a reply.
Listening to Councillor Kennedy, you know, if it's understood that it may have to be a simple policy, it may not be something in great depth, because I don't think our council, you know, is in a position to be able to produce something very wieldy that will create a lot of work for our staff and maybe not get to where the point where Councillor Kennedy's talking about. But having said that, when he said about it could be something very simple, I'm prepared to accept that and see how it goes.
Okay, thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Nolan, are you voting? Thank you. Declared the motion carried. Item 2, Broken Hill City Council Report 136/20. Correspondence report sealing of the Silver City Highway between Broken Hill and Tibooburra. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Adams. Seconder, Councillor Clark. Councillor Adams, did you want to speak to that?
Just to say it's a good result for all, and I know that Mr. Bevan is very happy with the acknowledgement from council.
Thank you. Any speakers against? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Nolan. Councillor Nolan, yeah, thank you. It's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much, councillors. Item 3, Broken Hill City Council Report number 137/20, correspondence report, Menindee Lake Sustainable Diversion Limit Adjustment Mechanism Project, correspondence from Melinda Pavey. Do I have a mover for this? Councillor Brown, seconder. Councillor Adams. Councillor Brown, do you want to speak to this?
Very briefly, Madam Mayor. No, I don't really. It's not a particularly satisfactory response. It's a sort of a do nothing response, which I assume is written by one of the two DPIE people. So we await the next briefing from them. Thanks, Madam Mayor. I don't say any more of this.
Okay. Speakers against, Councillor Kennedy.
Move an amendment, thank you, Madam Mayor.
What's your amendment, councillor?
So 1 and 2 and number 3, that council write back to the minister, asking the minister to amend the terms of reference within the document, the Menindee Lakes, the Diversion Limit Adjustment Mechanism Project, Menindee Lakes Project, remove the 106 gigalitre water savings target, thus eliminating many potential...
Sorry, just take it easy. Council wrote to the minister to amend the terms of reference to remove the 106
gigalitre water saving target.
Yep. And
thus eliminating
No, that's.
Sorry.
So eliminating many potential water saving ideas.
You have a seconder for your amendment?
Well, in fact, allowing many water saving ideas, rather than eliminating, allowing.
Yep.
Thus allow.
Seconder, is that Councillor Nolan seconding the amendment? Yep.
I move this amendment, Madam Mayor, and I direct councillors to the second last paragraph on the correspondence, page 43. I sincerely hope your group will continue to contribute its considerable local knowledge and expertise to shape a project maximising the social, cultural, economic and environmental benefits of the project. As I've told Menindee SAG representative, projects need to have local support. Should the community believe there are no on-site projects which could deliver a balanced result under social, cultural, economic and environmental measures, please let me know. The Minister has written there asking for us to let her know that all the projects at the moment require to meet the terms of reference of the Stakeholders Advisory Group, which is 106 gigalitres of water savings from the Menindee Lake diversion project. Council have decided to be part of that Stakeholders Advisory Group, but it's almost impossible to come up with a water savings idea that meets that delivers a balanced result of social, cultural and economic environment measures. So we must remove, or the Minister must remove, that 106 gigalitre terms of reference so that the people that are involved with the Stakeholders Advisory Group are able to come up with measures that will save water or return water to the environment, but does not necessarily meet the 106 gigalitre of return water to the Murray-Darling system, or the Murray River, in fact. So this is an opportunity for council, and not only an opportunity for our council, but for the Menindee and Wilcannia communities and any other community that relies on the Menindee Lakes and the water coming down the Darling River. The Minister has given us an opportunity to state that, and I think this is more or less an invitation to ask for that 106 gigalitres of water target to be removed as a reference to the guidelines.
Thank you, Councillor Brown.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd be quite happy to withdraw my motion in favour of that amended motion. That's totally in line with what council said in the letter that this is a response to. So I can see that it's a good idea just to reinforce those original points. So I'm happy with that.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. So Councillor Brown's withdrawn her motion. So Councillor Kennedy's amendment is now the motion. I don't think there's any debate. We're happy to put them, and there's no further debate. Thank you, councillors. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? It's a unanimous vote. Thank you, councillors. Item 4, Broken Hill City Council report, report number 138/20, interest disclosure annual report 2019-2020. Do I have a mover for this? Councillor Adams and Councillor McCool seconded. Councillor Adams, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, Madam Mayor, it's self-explanatory.
Okay, Councillor Kennedy, you're speaking against?
No, I have a question, Madam Mayor, but I will start off by saying that I think it's outstanding that there's the report. There has been no reporting, which is good. But I have had a number of questions from the community, and I'm sure they'll be all answered in the positive. But I will ask them anyway. as a councillor. Can the General Manager confirm the following? Have any conflicts arisen by the General Manager or any member of council staff in relation to the Civic Centre issues? So that was the first question. Has the General Manager disclosed all information to all councillors in relation to the Civic Centre issues to ensure the decision-making process by council is proper? Another one, to ensure that a full disclosure of information has provided to all elected members, could we please have be provided with a complete list of all documents, correspondence, advice that the General Manager and Mayor or his or her delegates have received when this information was provided to the same and when this information was provided to elected members? It could be argued that council had no mandate to spend the many millions of dollars on legal fees.
Can we just, Councillor Kennedy, if you want to go down this path, you have your questions. We're not here to debate this. You're talking about questions.
This is still another question, Madam Mayor. So this is the question someone gave to me. So I'm just reading out directly the questions. Expenditure reasonably to character. Could this be characterised as misuse of public funds or at worst maladministration? So the question was, given if council had no mandate, could it be seen as reasonably characterised by misuse of public funds or worse maladministration? This is another question, so it sounds like it's an argument, but it's a question. At no point has the Mayor explained to the public what is happening or what the outcome will be for residents, ratepayers. Will the Mayor tell the public, address the public, tell the public what is going on with the Civic Centre? How much money has spent on legal fees?
Just, Councillor, are we talking about the report?
Yeah, so the report was about public interest disclosures and annuals reports. So it's about whether councillors misused public money, maladministration, corrupt conduct, serious or substantial waste of public money. These are all questions that directly relate to this report. The questions that have been asked was, is there a substantial waste of money? Could it be considered maladministration or misuse of public funds? Could it be seen as council wasting money on legal fees? Quite simply is a role of the administration to have a process to manage risk and project this was not done. So these are all legitimate questions that have been asked.
Just referred to the Mr. Nankerville, sorry. Oh, sorry, Mr. General Manager.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, this line of questioning has absolutely nothing to do with this report. This report is in relation to public interest disclosures that have been made and have been part of an investigation process. It's completely out of line, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, that is not, it's not out of line.
Kennedy,
in my opinion,
I'll make the rulings, not you. These questions can be referred to, because some of them don't relate to this report, but we'll take them on questions on notice.
I'll ask all the questions at the end of the meeting if that's where the Mayor would prefer me to ask the questions.
If there's anything relating to this report, happy for you to ask it here.
Happy to ask
this report.
Well, I believe they relate to the report. Let's face it, disclosures, corrupt conduct, maladministration, government information contravenes. These are all things that council deal with every day. And I don't think we as a council have anything to hide whatsoever. I think most of these questions would be answered in a positive way with no problem whatsoever. But a member of the community has asked me and put this to me in writing, and I said I would bring it up at the council meeting. I don't think that it would astound me if anything that's been asked here by this person, council would have done wrong. I don't think that, that's why he's asking the question, I assume, and I'll ask it on his behalf. And it continues, the legal advice and strategy adopted by has been flawed. Councillors have blindly walked out on the plank and now surprised to know that we could lose millions of dollars.
Councillor Kennedy,
You're
misleading this. Can we please focus on what the report is?
Oh, well, I'll ask at the end of the meeting, Councillor.
Councillor Clark, you had
Yes, I have, Madam Mayor. I've got a comment here. I think perhaps
a point of order, Councillor, because I have to say, is it point of order?
Yes, it is a point of order, I guess, Madam Mayor. What I am saying is that we are not dealing with the matter at hand here. If a member of the public has questions like that, perhaps they would have been best addressed to the General Manager and not become part of a council meeting which is dealing with something else.
That's not a point of order, but thank you for that.
Yes,
so Councillor Kennedy.
I'll ask it in questions with for the next meeting, if you like, Madam Mayor.
We have collected that because it doesn't relate to this report. Thank you.
Right.
There's no further discussion. We have collected quite a few of your comments. Lisa? Yeah. Questions? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if Lisa likes, I can send through the questions as a whole because it's written down here. I can send through an email later.
Thank you.
That's easier for Lisa.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you, councillors. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Adams? Thank you. Declare to carry unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 5, Broken City Council Report 139/20, Cultural Facilities Opening Hours. Do I have a mover for this? Page 61. No mover? Thank you, Councillor Adams. Seconder, Councillor Clark. Councillor Adams, do you want to speak to this?
Oh, Madam Mayor, we know we've very pleased to see things opening, so I know it's slow and we would all like to see it happen more quickly, but let's just move on now and hopefully have everything fully open very soon.
Thank you. Councillor Kennedy, you're speaking against?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll move an amendment.
What's your amendment, Councillor?
My amendment is 1, 2, 3 and 4 that all council facilities, all council cultural facilities be open to normal operating hours. Council be given a report at the November meeting detailing the additional costs.
Do you have a seconder, Councillor Kennedy? Councillor Allgate? Councillor Kennedy, do you want to speak to the amendment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would like to speak to it. The report on a whole is quite disappointing. In fact, it's very disappointing. Some of the figures that are used in there about the 2.3 million and forecast reduction in thing, that was the guesstimates with the income. Council's actual reduction in revenue, forecast revenue from the operations of those facilities was way, way lower. What disappoints me greatly is we're at a time when tourism really in the city is booming, and we have what is, I would say, tens of thousands of people, tourists going away unhappy, talking about a negative experience they've had in Broken Hill. Being involved in tourism and on the Tourist Association for many years, one thing that I was always proud of as a councillor and a member of the community was the amount of people that had a happy, glowing report on what they'd done in Broken Hill. We'd had a number of local government association conferences that always referred to Broken Hill as the best conference they'd ever been to. Broken Hill has always been a place where tourists have admired. What's happened this time though, we have tourists that are in cars, tourists that are going to the Visitors Information Centre, abusing the business owner there at Gloria Jeans. This is not good for Broken Hill. It's not good for the community. We need to, as a council, get these cultural facilities up and running so that we can sell Broken Hill as the tourist destination and the great place it is to be to the rest of Australia. This is not a time for Broken Hill to be closed or have its doors closed. Earlier on in the business report, we talk about small businesses. A lot of small businesses rely on tourism in Broken Hill, and Broken Hill City Council is the main driver of tourism and getting tourists here to Broken Hill. We certainly don't have to undo our good work by not having a pleasant destination once they're here. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I'll just check before I go to Councillor Clark. Has the VIC opened up at lunchtime, Mr. General Manager?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Open all day, Monday to Friday.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Clark.
I was going to ask, in that I'm very pleased to see that the facilities are opening up more than what they have been to take advantage of the number of tourists that we do have in town. But I was looking at the library, the Geo Centre and the Visitors Information Centre, which are all shut between 12 and 2. And my question was, is that going to still be the case?
Mr.
And
General
the
Manager?
answer is?
Sorry, Councillor Clark, just those 3 sites again.
The 3 sites that we're being given here on pages 68, 69, the library, the Geo Centre and the Visitors Information Centre appear to not be open between 12 and 2. And I was under the impression that they were going to be open.
The Visitor Information Centre certainly is, and I might just refer to Ms Newman, Director Corporate, just on the other 2.
Okay, so the Visitors Information Centre is?
Yes.
Okay.
And this, I might just add, this particular motion that Council's debating there seeks to address the weekend issue.
Yes.
For the VIC.
For the VIC. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Ms Newman might be able to just add some clarity around the other 2.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Councillor Clark, I just want to assure Council that we are working right now this minute on a number of expansions within the service delivery framework of all the cultural facilities, including getting back as rapidly as possible to the opening hours that were there pre-COVID. There are some industrial issues that we still have to overcome. There are still some budgetary issues that we have to overcome, but we are working very, very rapidly on all of those aspects. We have updated all of our safety plans to accommodate greater accessibility to souvenirs. All of those things have been behind bollards. We are reintroducing volunteers. They are absolutely vital to some aspects, particularly in the retail area, to assist the permanent staff, to relieve the permanent staff. It is just a waste of time having people on $80,000, selling socks. We really have to do way better. But we are working on this, and probably by November, for such a report, if council resolves in that way, we'll be able to report satisfactorily on this matter.
Thank you. Councillor Adams, you had a question?
Not a question, well, possibly it is because I may be misinterpreting, but I don't think so. But item 10 of the quarterly budget review, there is a section there which gives us some costings that, for Councillor Kennedy's, if he has a look there, there is some costings there for the opening of extended hours of our facilities. So at least that gives us an idea of what it's all about.
Thank you. And Councillor Page, did you have a question? You need to unmute yourself, Councillor Page.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, no, I can.
I'd like to ask you a question. Why we can't have a group of volunteers? We had them before. They were known as meet and greet all the tourists that come to Broken Hill, whether it's the train and or other means of transport. So we need a group of volunteers, and whether they are recognised as meet and greet or help the staff at the tourist centre. So I think it's long overdue, and the amount of complaints I get, not just from tourists but from locals, this issue's got to be dealt with a very good outcome for the future of our tourist industry.
Thank you. The question about meet and greet, there was actually a resolution in the last council meeting that council work with stakeholders to develop our volunteers in the cultural centre. We've got to work with all the stakeholders, including the union, to do that. So we've already addressed that. I've just got another hand up, councillor. Are you speaking? I haven't had a speaker against the motion. Are you speaking against, or are you asking a question, councillor Clark?
Yeah, look, I was just wondering if there is a time frame for when these facilities may be open on the weekend at all. I note that the Visitors Information Centre is closed both Saturday and Sunday. The Geo Centre is open half a day on Saturdays. Do we have a time frame? Are we working towards one?
So thank you, councillor. I think as I understand, we're going to vote, and I think the next report for funding to put some permanent part-times into the VIC. So
Okay.
the VIC, and that's to open up on weekends.
Okay.
I think our Director of Corporate spoke about the other venues. But we're going to vote to put some permanent part-time workers into the budget to allow the opening of the weekends.
So is it a little premature then to be talking about point 4, that all cultural facilities open to normal hours then, when we're still discussing staffing arrangements?
We're about to vote for, yes.
Yeah, when we're
anyway, can I just say, I'll take it that councillor Clark, you want to put that as a debate, that it's premature?
Well, I was going to speak again.
Okay, I'll take your questions, councillor Clark, and I'll go to councillor Adams. Councillor Adams to speak.
Well, I'll
against
follow
the
on with
amendment.
what councillor Clark was saying. That's where I was going, that I think number 4 is premature at this stage. We understand that we're opening as soon as we possibly can, it's been explained to us that there are not problems, but things that have to be sorted out between unions and all sorts of different people to get this all up and running. So I honestly think that number 4 is possibly difficult for us to receive, to see that. Hopefully we will see them all open soon, but I think it would be very difficult to get a report to the November council detailing costs and so on, considering considering all the things that are involved into getting this to be a carryover from where we are.
Thank you. Any speakers for the amendment? No speakers for the amendment. I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? In favour, Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Page and Councillor Allgate. Against, Councillor Brown, Councillor Nolan, Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Adams, Councillor Cool, Councillor Clark and Mayor Shirley. The amendment has been lost. The mover will move back to the original motion. If there is no further debate, I'll ask Councillor Adams for the right of reply.
I think there's been enough discussion. Madam Mayor, I'd say put it to the vote.
Thank you, councillors. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against is Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Page, Councillor Allgate. In favour, Councillor Brown, Councillor Nolan, Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Adams, Councillor LaCour, Councillor Clark and Mayor Shirley. Thank you, councillors. We now move to item 6, Broken Hill City Council Report 140/20, the Reconciliation Action Plan 2020-2022. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Clark and Councillor Brown. Councillor Clark, do you want to speak to the motion?
Only to say, Madam Mayor, that it's great to see that this reconciliation plan has taken shape and that it has received the full endorsement of the Innovate Reconciliation Action Plan from Reconciliation Australia. We are, I think, moving in the right direction, and to keep those avenues of conversation open is going to be a very good thing, I think, for the whole community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any speakers against? No speakers against. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Oh, sorry. Unanimous vote. Thank you, councillors. Item 7, the Broken Hill City Council Report number 141/20, the adoption of the draft mobile food vehicle, temporary food store and hawking policy. Moved by Councillor Nolan. Seconder, Councillor Adams. Councillor Nolan, do you want to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My screen's gone black. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can.
Oh, very good. I take great pleasure in moving this motion, acknowledging the work done by councillors and staff in engaging. Okay, maybe that you can see me now. That's good. I'll just start that again and say that I acknowledge the great work done by councillors and staff in consultation and fine-tuning of the draft that went out for final consultation, and it's a great example, I think, of common sense and looking after the business holders and public Broken Hill, balancing out with the interests of volunteer groups fundraising as well. I think that sums it up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any speakers against? No speakers against. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. It's passed unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Item 8, Broken Hill City Council Report number 142/20, page 116. The industrial rates. Do I have a mover? Councillor Branco. Seconder. councillor Clark. Councillor Cool, do you want to speak to the motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you very much. Look, firstly, I'd like to thank Jay and his team for putting together this report following our key direction, our economy group meeting. Look, the recommendation is put to the councillors. I won't go through the whole report. It's all there, the information. It's to review the city's entire rating structure as part of preparing the 21-22 operational plan. And that's in the hope to ensure a fair and equitable outcome for all rating categories across the city. So that's to investigate all the options properly, all the impacts, all the consequences for all the ratepayers. And that's going to include the community consultation and feedback to look at the outcome for all ratepayers, all rating categories. One factor in this is the IPART decision, which is currently with the government for legislation. That's going to be a big factor in this issue too. And it could be part of a fundamental change in how councils across the state look at their rates. I know this is a contentious issue with a lot of the community, with the different rating and the different rates that come down. So I think this is a proper, sensible course of action. It'll allow us to do diligence and cover all aspects of the matter. And we'll recognise impact on all ratepayers. It needs to be done properly. We can't rush this, and it needs to be done with all parties involved throughout the whole community. And I'll leave it to the council to vote on that recommendation as we go forward, bearing in mind that we're looking at coming towards the end of the year. So any action overnight is not going to happen. We need to go through and do this properly, because it's going to have a huge impact on the community and everyone involved. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Kennedy, you're speaking against.
Move an amendment, thanks, Madam Mayor.
What's your amendment, councillor?
1, 2, 3, and add a number 4. The council report back to the November meeting scenarios that may be used to lower Cananda precinct rates to 1920 plus rate pegging amounts.
So just that council report back to November meeting, scenarios that may be used to lower Cananda precinct rates to 1920 plus rate pegging announced.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, seconder, councillor Allgate. Do you want to speak to your amendment, councillor?
Yes, thank you. I would, Madam Mayor. Councillor Cool said that this is going to be a huge thing for the community. This was not going to be a huge thing for the community. The council could have easily just had made a subcategory of businesses out in that area. It would have been an insignificant impact across other businesses. Because of the small number of businesses out in that area, there's been a huge impact, 60% increase. This has had a huge impact. It's on an area that employs many, many people. Those businesses have made it known that those increases are not sustainable. We are one of the few councils, I would say, across the state and maybe the country that punishes businesses that employ people. These same businesses can get land in Mildura and pay rates of about $1,500 to $2,000 per year. They're already paying excessive rates in that area, but then to be hit with a 60% increase not only has made it difficult for those businesses, but it's caused those businesses to lose faith in council. And council's ability to support business. I'm not the only councillor that at election time run under the guise of supporting and promoting businesses in the community. All councillors have said that they are supportive of businesses. It's one thing to say that you're supportive of business and then at the same time allow something to happen that virtually hamstrings businesses from moving forward and in employing more people. It's fine to, and the reason I added the first three things, looking at the rate structure is fine, and I think the only thing that needs to be done is a subcategory. Some business rates have gone too high in other areas, and maybe that needs to be looked at. I'm certainly not someone that supports the IPART move to allow councillors to charge ratepayers whatever they deem is acceptable. I would hate to think what some councillors at this council would think was acceptable for ratepayers to pay. Quite concerning for me, and I would hope that it'd be concerning for many members in the community to think that this council could charge beyond what is now rate pegging. The council has an obligation to the community to ensure that businesses are able to survive. Council should remember that the only business in town that's important is not the mines, and council had no trouble giving rate relief to the mines year after year for many years. This year, the rates went up by 60% for those Cananda Road business, Cananda precinct businesses, and we need to do something this year. Not wait till 2021. I moved the amendment so that we can do a report in 2021, but we can also act in now, 2021 instead of 2020, 21, 22. We need to act now. We need to make sure that businesses are able to survive and not pay that extra 60%. We need to do something now, and I would hope that councillors agree with me and understand that many businesses in the town are struggling and were already struggling from COVID-19. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Clark is speaking against.
Mayor, I guess I am, because I'm thinking that the point has already been made, has it not, that we can't act now to fix this situation for the people on Cananda Road this year, because we are unable to act retrospectively, and that's a legal matter. It's not something that is a whim of council or particular councillors who certainly, going against what Councillor Kennedy obviously thinks. Councillors, I'm sure all councillors empathise greatly with the high rates being paid by business people in Broken Hill. Madam Mayor, I'm wondering if I could also make an amendment here.
I need to deal, you can foreshadow, and I need to deal with the amendment that's in front of us.
Okay, I'll foreshadow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further speakers for the amendment? No speakers for. I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? I just have a few people to vote. Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Page, Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Cool is voting for the amendment. Councillor Allgate, and against is Councillor Brown, Councillor Nolan, Councillor Adams, Councillor Clark, and Mayor Shirley. So that is now a divided vote. with the mayor holding the casting vote. I'm going to vote against the amendment, and so that we can now go to the foreshadowed. And I do that, I should say, I do that for many reasons, but for the reason that we know the legal ramifications, we can't retrospectively change what has happened, and that as the mayor, I've already been lobbying the Valuer General and also the Office of Local Government New South Wales, because what has become apparent to me is this issue isn't just about Broken Hill, but it's an issue experienced across New South Wales for this particular rating period. And I agree with Councillor Kennedy, 60% increase is not acceptable on the valuation of the land. Thank you. We'll go.
Can I just have a point of clarification, Madam Mayor?
Yep.
Twice there's yourself and Councillor Clark referred to a legal matter of council can't do anything. My amendment was quite clear, a report on possible scenarios that could be done by council. I don't think there is a legal ramification that involves council coming up with scenarios where they can implement different things to do with that. So just point of
so my understanding, and it's in the report, that the rates that have been set, you cannot go back and change those rates. I'll just ask the General Manager to make comment on that, please, Mr. General Manager.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I might just refer to the CFO on that one, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. That's correct. Once rates are struck at the beginning of the year, there's a process the council runs through the operational plan that sets out the rates model, which with your base rates and your ad valorums, which sets your rate structure for the year. Once that's adopted by council and rates are struck, which has to be done by 31 July, they're set in stone for the remainder of the financial year. The only time that they can be retrospectively changed if there's an irregularity or an invalidity with the rates and you have ministerial approval. In this instance, there hasn't been anything of that nature with the rates that were struck at 31 July, so they can't be changed for this financial year.
Thank you, Mr.
Question, Madam Mayor.
Sorry?
Could I ask a question, Madam Mayor?
What's your question, Councillor?
My question is, again, and it's to the Mayor or to Mr. Nankivell, I'm asking for scenarios that will allow businesses to have that money put down to that amount. That may be a rate holiday, it may be, there's a number of scenarios that, so my question is, what scenarios can be used? There's catch-ups and all this sort of thing. So as many scenarios council has that allows it, besides lowering the rates back to that amount. We're talking about that they only pay that amount, not that they're rated that amount. So are there other scenarios? Has it been looked at? That's the question I'm asking.
So my understanding, and I'll ask Mr. Nankivell to say, because we've looked at, you can't have a rate holiday. That's another legal issue, but I'll ask Mr. Nankivell to make comment on that.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I mean, rate holiday is exactly just a holiday in your payment of rates. So whilst council could, under the business development policy for new businesses, but not currently existing businesses, give a rates holiday, the rates are still owing by that business. It's just deferring payment for another 12 months or a period of time. So it doesn't make the rates go away. They're still due and payable. And
that's already in place, that policy, that we can make arrangements for payment. It is, I mean, we've voted on this, but can I just say, we do have interest-free rates. The issue is how the Valuer General, the fact that have valued the land at such high prices and absolutely exponentially increase the rates for these people, and we will continue to look at this. And we go back now, we do have Councillor, we go back now to Councillor LaCour's original motion. I'll just, before I go, yeah, I know that. I'm just going to go back to Councillor LaCour's original motion and just see if Councillor Clark is happy with that original motion. So that is that council, here we go, that the report be received, that council note the information provided by the Valuer General, and that council review the city's entire rating structure as part of preparing the 2021/22 operational plan to ensure a fair and equitable outcome for all rating categories across the city. This does not take over from the last month's meeting where we said we'd be advocates about the rating system with the Valuer General. Councillor Clark, do you still believe you have a foreshadowed amendment?
I was just would have liked to have added an additional point. I think that the recommendation's a good one, and I'd like to add an additional point that council continue to pursue the Crown Lands Department to with a view to
Crown Land,
to access further land for the Canandra Road area, if possible.
Councillor Core, you happy to include that in your motion?
I'm happy to include that as part of the motion. I understand that action is ongoing, but yes, definitely have that in the motion to get the support of the council behind it.
Okay, thank you. So we have the motion in front of us, and we do have last month's motion that also stands. Councillor Core, do you want to, now you've spoken to your motion?
I'll speak against it.
Yeah, no, I'm coming to you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Kennedy, you want to speak against the motion?
Yes, I'll speak against the motion. It does too little, too late. It's talking about a whole look at the restructuring of rates. That concerns me in some way, greatly, in fact, because when it comes back and we look at these rates, residents may be paying way more in rates, businesses may be paying way more in rates. What's going to come back that mines don't have to pay any rates? This is just another example of council, what should be an easy thing, turning it into a hard thing that will put the community under a lot of angst. Most people will be thinking, oh, my rate's going to go up, my rate's going to go down. I would hope that the process results in a good outcome. But being a member of this community and a member of this council, too often the decisions that council have come up with have had a negative impact on the community and a negative impact on most of the people I've spoken to. So I, as a councillor and a member of the community, have little faith in this process coming up with a decision that helps the community as a whole. So I'll leave it at that, but I think that, well, I don't think, I know that the community are concerned about rates in general, are concerned, and they'd be even more terrified if they think they have to pay extra.
And we will continue to lobby to make sure our concerns are there. Is there any other speakers for the motion? If not, Councillor Core, would you like your right to reply?
Madam Mayor, I think I can certainly understand all the angst that's been expressed tonight. It is a vexing issue, but it's an issue that we've got to follow the due process, and I think this recommendation is the way to do that. I'm very keen on expanding the boundaries to free up land for more industrial use. I think that's going to be a big factor, but we've got to do it properly. We've got to follow that process. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put Councillor Cole's motion. All those in favour? All those against? Against, Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Allgate, Councillor Page. In favour, Councillor Clark, Councillor Brown, Councillor Nolan, Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Adams, Councillor Core and Mayor Shirley. Thank you, councillors. We will continue to lobby to address this issue. Item 9, Broken Hill City Council report number 143/20, dated 16th of October. page 123. Do I have a mover for this? This is the carryover budget for 2020-2021. Moved by councillor Nolan. Second by councillor Clark. Councillor Nolan, do you want to speak to this?
Unmuted now. Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's essentially a machinery matter that allows us to get on with the business of council. It is a fact that we plan to do certain things, the majority of which we get done, and then there are some other things that get delayed, some other things that cost us a little bit more. But in order to get on with it, we have a carryover budget and we should pass it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Orgate, you want to speak against it? The motion?
Wanted to make a comment, Madam Chair.
Yes.
And the comment is that long-term councillors would remember that previous councils have come in for a lot of criticism, quite serious criticism from the Office of Local Government about the level of carryovers we had in the past. Those carryovers were only in the $2 million, $2.5 million range. This one's double that. And I understand and I agree with what Councillor Nolan has said. There are reasons why a lot of jobs have not been done, although they may have been started or contracted out, as the report says. I'm just mindful of the fact that of the criticism we've received in the past, and it's been really severe criticism from the Office of Local Government and from our auditor.
Thank you, councillor. Any further speakers for the motion? It's for the motion. Councillor Clark.
That there are quite a number of these projects, these carryover projects, which in fact are listed as carryover projects and are just about due for completion. So perhaps it's not as dire as what some may think. Thank you.
Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll move an amendment.
What's your amendment, councillor?
1, 2, 3, and at number 4, that council note concern about the level of carryovers for this year.
Councillor Nolan, did you want to accept that into your motion? Or take it as an amendment?
No, well, I was going to address it in right of reply, but the point of it is we need to do it now. I'm sympathetic with what Councillor Allgate has said. I looked over those issues as well. I'm never happy when things don't get done all on time and finished and we don't have to carry over. But the fact is, this was a COVID year, our first COVID year. There have been delays in getting some things done that were completely unavoidable. And in fact, it's remarkable that we got done as much as we did in the tough times that we have all had. So therefore, I wouldn't be including that in the motion at this point. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Kennedy, you'll debate it as an amendment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move this amendment because...
sorry, I just need a seconder for your amendment. Councillor Allgate, thank you.
I move this amendment to address the concerns that Councillor Allgate has, but they're concerns that I also have. I remember the council, when they were given a list of things from the Office or Department of Local Government during the sacking of council, and one of those issues was the level of carryovers each year. The level of carryovers during that period were substantially less. So these are not little things that irrelevant. And I take on board what Councillor Nolan said about COVID, but the reality is we as councillors, as the governing body, still should be concerned at the level of carryovers for this year, and to note it in the minutes would, I think, would be a good governance thing to do. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I'll just refer to the General Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, those two comments are incredibly disappointing because we have this discussion every year. Capital items that are the norm to be carried over. It is when you've got to go to tender, you've got to go to council, you've got to award tenders, you've got to get contractors into the city, or we're doing our own works, materials and contracts. It is absolutely the norm for capital projects to run over consecutive financial years. Any reference the Office of Local Government were making back in the day was in relation to operational carryovers. It's inappropriate to carry large amounts of operational money over. That there is a clear distinction. And I recall we had this discussion 4 or 5 months ago, maybe 6 months ago, when we awarded the contract for the roofing. I made the point at the time that that particular project was going to transcend financial years. So again, it's quite a significant misrepresentation of the facts to be saying anything other than that, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much.
Speakers against the motion, the amendment. No speakers against the amendment. I'll put the amendment. This is Councillor Kennedy's amendment. I'll put the amendment. All those in favour, against? Councillor Brown? Your vote hasn't come up, Councillor. Do you want to unmute, Councillor, and just tell us? You might be having trouble with your button. In the meantime, thank you. In the meantime, against Councillor Cool, Councillor Adams, Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Nolan, Councillor Brown, Councillor Clark, Councillor Page, and Mayor Turley. Support is Councillor Kennedy and Councillor Allgate. The amendment is lost. We go back to the original motion. So councillors, is there, we've had 4 speakers. Is any of it, they're going to the vote? I was just going to say, we'll put the vote. All those in favour? And against? Against is Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Allgate. Favour, Councillor Page, Councillor Clark, Councillor Brown, Councillor Nolan, Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Adams, Councillor Cool, and Mayor Turley. Thank you, councillors. Good debate. Item 10, report number 144/20, page 128, budget review statement for period ended September 2020. We'll just need to clear those votes. Can I have a mover for this motion? Mover for the motion? Councillor Adams. Is there a seconder? Councillor Clark. Councillor Adams, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Kennedy, you want to speak against the motion?
I move an amendment. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
What's your amendment, councillor?
So 1 as written, 2 as written, 3 as written, but that a report be delivered back to the November meeting of council on ways to reduce the deficit. Number 4 as written, but a report be presented to the November council meeting explaining how that figure of 46,326,000 was arrived to. and number 5 as is.
Councillor Kennedy, you want to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Amendment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the amendment because council can't
I
continue.
think Councillor Allgate's got his hand up. I'll just check to see if he's got a point of order. Councillor Allgate?
To ask a question, Madam Mayor.
What's your question, councillor?
Oh, I just wanted an explanation on page 137. It's nothing to do with the amendment. I was concerned about how was the $11 million made up in other capital items.
I'll just let Councillor Kennedy talk to his motion amendment, and then we'll take your question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the amendment because to continue with deficits like this before operating deficits before capital is unacceptable, and councillors for too long have been going along with this. I hear management on regular occasions accuse previous councils of doing this exact same thing. At some stage, the council that's involved has to make sure these deficits don't go ahead. And the other reason I moved the other part of the amendment was $46 million in capital expenditure, which is a big portion of grants. I really don't understand how that figure was obtained or how it came about. It's fine to say that the government will be spending money on COVID and all this, but it has to have some basis. It can't just be a figure that's made up and brought out of the sky. It'll be a bit like the figures that were forecast for our revenue from investments that turned out to be so dramatically wrong. I would not like to see another situation where figures are so dramatically wrong, and then when those figures end up being so dramatically wrong, the community ends up paying for them by saying that they were forecast. So I think it's important we get get a report on how that figure came about, and a report on how we can reduce the deficits that are out of hand, in my opinion.
Thank you, councillor. Did I get a seconder for the amendment? No. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Allgate?
Yep.
You had a question, Councillor Allgate, on 137. Is that in this report?
Yeah, I have a question. As I said before, the original budget of 11.225 million in other capital items, it now finishes up at 14.4 million. That's a fair slice of the 46. I was just wondering what the other items predominantly comprise.
Mr. Nankerville?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I haven't got the list of projects on the top of my head right at the moment. I can provide a report. However, the projects of that $40 million, inclusive the $11 million of other, are all the projects that council adopted in the original budget on the 30th of June 2020, and the 3.3 additional carryovers was the item subject to the previous report council just moved. But I can provide I can give you an itemised list of how we've broken up those projects into a category and circulated outside of the meeting, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, all I'm concerned about is the fact that I might be approving something that I have no idea what the 14 million is, and the 14 million is a fairly significant percentage of the overall. So, councillors should be aware of exactly what comprises that figure as far as I'm concerned.
Mr. Nankerville?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Councillor Allgate, all those projects were itemised in the original budget, so you are aware of every single itemised capital project that makes up that entire $40 million. And again, the previous report had the itemised projects of that $4.8 million. So whilst we haven't broken up into categories, as you're looking at on page 137, you are aware of every single project that is in this report.
Yeah, that might be the case, but all I'm saying is when this report is produced, I can't see why it's not spelled out what the other $14 million comprises. I mean, it might be hidden somewhere in another report somewhere else, but I'm asking about this report. What is that $14 million? What am I voting on? I mean, we talk about the council up along the coast the other day. Council was saying they didn't know what they were voting on. They didn't know what was happening. You know, I'm asking the same question. What is that $14 million? Do I have to go back through all of the budget reviews and the quarterly financial statements to find that out?
I think, councillor, that Mr Nankerfield said they can circulate that to you again. Thank you.
I think that'll be helpful. Thank you,
yeah.
Madam
Okay.
Mayor.
Thank you. And councillor Clark, are you speaking against the amendment? You need to unmute yourself, councillor.
Okay, thank you. I was just seeking to clarify something, Madam Mayor. Councillor Kennedy has asked some questions here about the operating deficit and the projected capital budget expenditure there. And both of these are explained fairly well, I think, on the next pages about how these came about, how those figures actually came about. So unless there was something else that Councillor Kennedy was seeking, and I'm sorry if I have missed that. Could you maybe read it out, what he wanted?
I think that Councillor Kennedy was saying that he wanted another, he said that he wanted a report presented to November council meeting explaining the 46 million, how it was arrived. So that's what he's requested. Okay, if there's no further debate, I'll put the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment, all those against? Councillor Nolan, you haven't voted yet?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm having trouble with the button. It's probably a reception thing. I'll be right in a second.
I think we've all had trouble with our buttons tonight.
Do a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
In the meantime, I'll do all those in favour of Councillor Kennedy's amendment is Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Adams, Councillor McCool, and all those, Councillor Allgate, you haven't voted. All those against, Councillor Page, Councillor Brown, Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Clark, Councillor Nolan, Mayor Shelley, Councillor Allgate, are you voting?
I had voted.
Yeah, it's gone. Thank you. And Councillor Allgate's in favour. The amendment is lost. Thank you, councillors. We'll go back to the original motion of Councillor Adams. Oops, sorry. The original motion of Councillor Adams. Is there any further debate? We need to clear all buttons. Thanks. We've got, thank you. No further debate. Councillor Adams, would you like a right of reply?
No, just to add, Madam Mayor, that Mr Nankerfield has actually covered has said that he will send out the information on that, on the capital budget expenditure to us. And I think that actually covers what the amendment was, one part of the amendment, so I'm fine with it now.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Yep, okay. Gates, councillor Kennedy, councillor Allgate, in favour, councillor Page, councillor Brown, councillor Gallagher, councillor Adams, councillor McCool, councillor Clark, councillor Nolan, and Mayor Shirley. And that motion is carried. Councillors, I'm just going to hand over to the Deputy Mayor for a moment for the next motion, because I just have to step out and blow my nose. Excuse me for a minute.
Right, next item is item 10. Broken Hill City Council Report number 144/20, quarterly budget review statement for period ended September 2020. We have a mover, please. Moved by councillor Nolan, seconded. Seconded by councillor Clark. Any discussion? Councillor Gallagher?
No, I was just about to second, that was all, just trying to get rid of it now.
So no one speaking against, Tom, sorry, councillor Kennedy? You wish to
What
speak against the motion?
What item are we on?
Item 10?
I thought
No, item 11, isn't it?
Yeah.
Item 11, I think.
Sorry.
Item 11, Madam Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, that's 152, Tom, councillor Kennedy.
Yeah, no, councillor Adams was talking about item 10, not item 11.
Yeah, so, yeah, very sorry, we'll scrub that one. I did lose a few brain cells when I had the spine operation, I can assure you. So we'll start again, item 11. Broken Hill Council Report 145/20, investment report for September 2020. Councillor Nolan, you are moving.
Oh, yeah. Didn't we do this? We've done this, haven't we? Oh, yes.
Councillor 11, item 11 we're on.
Yes.
Investment report for September 2020. Councillor Nolan, you've already moved this, is that correct?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Councillor Clark, you have, oh, sorry, we need a seconder.
Yes.
Right, Councillor Clark, seconding.
Yeah.
Do you want me to take back over?
Yes, Councillor.
I'll take
Turn his
that.
back, so she will take over.
Thank you. So we have a mover by councillor Nolan, second by councillor Clark. Councillor Nolan, did you want to speak to the motion?
And you've only got to look at the graphs to see that. But if you look at our summary, you'll see tick, 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 and then you'll see one cross. So I was only simply going to speak to that. And that is the fact that people paid their rates. We got a decent amount of rates come in, and that pushed the amount in Westpac a little bit over our usual limit. And but quite frankly, having too much money invested with Westpac is technically not that bad a thing. So I'm pretty happy to move this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Speakers against, councillor Kennedy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I speak against. I'm always concerned about these some of the things that are written in these reports, and one of the concerns again is the domestic waste management reserve, which has only increased to $1.386 million. We were told at previous meetings that once the September quarter came in, it would continue to rise. And happy to hear from Councillor Nolan that we've had money in, but it hasn't made the dent or establish that waste management reserve that's important when we actually stop using that dump. And that drives me into a question which I believe is an important question, and it was partly spoken about by Councillor Allgate in the last item. I'm sure that all the councillors have read the issues that face the Central Coast Council that has 2,000 employees and a significant budget, and them being able to pay staff, and it appears that the financial position of the council was deliberately disguised. The members of the council have said that it's disguised, and they had no idea. So my question to the mayor, and she can put it to who she likes, council has spent a significant amount of money on legal fees fighting the Civic Centre litigation. Can the mayor confirm through management that the Broken Hill City Council does not have any liquidity issues and can pay staff and suppliers on time? And if we can the general manager, in his opinion, or whoever of the management answers it, when stating that Broken Hill City Council does not have a liquidity problem, which I suspect will be the answer, can that be confirmed by independent auditors that are well aware of the Civic Centre litigation possible outcomes? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Was there another question?
That was it, Madam Mayor.
Okay. I did ask about the liquidity issue, and you can see by our ratios in the past that we're on track. I think the $81 million as a shock to those councillors there. I'll hand over to the Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Nankerville.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, certainly no liquidity issues at the moment. Councillors would be aware of the previous report and the quarterly budget review where we run through those ratios, and those key performance ratios above the benchmark and show that we have good liquidity. As councillors are aware as well, we have an internal audit risk and improvement committee that are well aware of our finances and legal matters that keep an eye on this, and as well as our external independent auditors, which is the Audit Office in New South Wales, are currently completing their review, and all ratios are subject to independent audit, which will be brought up to the 30 November council meeting as a finalised document, and a part of that audit and their due diligence is that they're aware of all council legal matters.
Thank you. And I just wanted to note we did have some special guests visit council and address the councillors from Treasury. Mr. Nankerville, they were from Treasury. Yes. And they were, can I say, very glowing of our staff and their reporting practice, and certainly, because that has always been my issue, and watching the liquidity and other ratios. So it was very, confirming that we are still on the right track. So thank you. Good question, Councillor Kennedy. If there's no further debate, Councillor Nolan, do you want to write a reply?
Oh, no, Madam Mayor, I think the issues have been well canvassed. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Nolan, you might have to hit it harder. Thank you. It's unanimous vote. Thank you, councillors. We'll move to item 12. Report number 146/20, the local traffic committee meeting number 407. Councillor Brown, you're moving that way?
Yes,
seconder? Councillor Clark. Councillor Brown, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, Madam Mayor, unless there are any questions.
No questions of the councillors? There's no debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour and against? Thank you. Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 13, Broken Hill City Council report 147/20. This is the action list. Do I have a mover? Councillor Nolan, seconder. Councillor Adams. Is there any debate? There's no debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Now I'm having the trouble with the. I have to hit it on the side, that's what I realised. Thank you, councillors, that's unanimous. Thank you for that. Item 12 is committee reports, for which there is none. Oh, sorry, councillors, it has gone 9 o'clock. We need a motion to extend the meeting. Do I have a motion from councillor? Councillor LaCour's moved that way. Councillor Jim has seconded it. Is there any debate? No debate. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Declared it carried unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Mr. Nankerville. Item 12, committee reports, for which there is nil. Item 13, questions taken on notice from previous council meeting, for which there was nil. Item 14 is questions for next meeting arising from items on this agenda. We have captured quite a few, and Councillor Kennedy is going to email Lisa with the others that he raised in the discussion. Councillor Brown.
Yes, Madam Mayor, this arises really from the discussion we had about recognising Broken Hill as a border community both for Victoria and South Australia. And I'm referring specifically to the news that the Mildura bus run appears to have been cancelled. So I'd be very interested to know whether this is the case, and if so, on what basis has that service been cancelled? Because it seems to me that this is an essential public service for the community of Broken Hill, and I think we should be outraged that it's not being continued. Given that we did request a few months ago that both of those services, the Adelaide and the Mildura, be made permanent services, we were told they were still trialling those services, but since then I assume that we've received no official confirmation that that service has been cancelled.
Did you want to include Adelaide in there as well, Councillor Brown?
Yes, yes. Well, certainly we need confirmation the Adelaide one is to continue. So yeah, certainly.
Okay, Councillor Clark, you had a question arising from the items on the agenda. Councillor Clark, you might need to unmute yourself.
Okay, yes, I was just wondering about Councillor Brown's question there. Would that have anything to do with the border closures and the fact that that might have affected certainly their decision to run buses into Victoria and South Australia, and whether or not this is just a temporary thing, whether they will be, reopening?
We'll take that on notice, and I would imagine that, South Australia has now opened their border, and I understand that someone had said as I was walking into the meeting that New South Wales will be opening their border to Victoria Regional on the 8th of November. I understand. I haven't heard that.
So it might start up then.
But we will take those questions on notice. If there's no further questions, we'll move into confidential. We'll wait for James J to stop the live stream. Do I have a mover to go into confidential? Councillor Nolan, Councillor LaCour. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Yep, I can see that. Councillor Kennedy had a question.
Speak against going into confidential.
Okay, got your blue hand up, thank you. Okay, and against, so I'll call this out. Councillor Page, Councillor Clark, Councillor Brown, Councillor Nolan, Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Adams, Councillor LaCour, Councillor Allgate, Mayor Shirley, and against Councillor Kennedy. Thank you, everyone. We'll now move to item 1.
I'm not allowed to speak against it, Councillor.
Oh, sorry, councillor, I'll go back. You're speaking against.
Yes, I'm speaking.
I'll just see, councillor Nolan, do you want to speak to the motion? Do you move into camera?
No, Madam Mayor, standard procedure. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kennedy, you're speaking against?
Yes, I'm speaking against item 3 of the confidential matters is my notice of motion, which was made public. So there's no reason for my notice of motion to be put in confidential. The notice of motion has nothing to do with litigation whatsoever. It has already been made public. It was already put to the community that I was putting this to the Broken Hill City Council, and for it to be made confidential goes against transparency, openness, and everything else that is to do with the code of conduct, council's policies, local government in general. I think it's quite obvious that by putting something that's already out in the public arena, and that was put widely circulated on Facebook, just makes council look like they're hiding things.
Thank you, councillor. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? And against? So in favour is councillor Page, Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Adams, Councillor Clark, Councillor Brown, Councillor Cool, Councillor Nolan and Mayor Shirley. Against is Councillor Kennedy and Councillor Allgate. Thank you, councillors.